Following up on my Ryan Poles video, addressing comments and responses about Ryan Poles from my video last week, such as Ryan Poles has never drafted a Pro Bowler, comments about how he handles head coaches, and the quote about taking the North and never giving it back, and much more. Let's get right into it. First up, I have to bring up the quote from Ryan Poles' first press conference because Bears fans love hating on this. Ryan Poles talked about taking the North and never giving it back. And Bears fans just love hating on it, but they fail to remember a single ounce of context from that press conference. Not one single time did Ryan Poles ever mention winning early in the rebuild. In fact, he was talking about taking a long term approach and building for the future. And then he said, so that way, when they do take the North, we won't give it back the following year. There are just so many people that have absolutely no idea what a rebuild is and love to use everything that is said out of context. And here's the bigger one. I'll get into this one more later in the video, but the people saying Ryan Poles never drafted a Pro Bowler. There's not a single person with an ounce of football intelligence that can look at all the players that Ryan Poles has drafted, from Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze to Jervon Dexter and Darnell Wright, and say that he's never drafted a Pro Bowler. That shows they lack football intelligence. But I also want to talk about the people who actually had good responses, and it's Ryan Poles' mismanagement of hiring head coaches, whether or not he held on to Eberflus too long, and the fact that he hired Eberflus in the first place. The hardest thing to decipher with this one is we really don't know what goes on behind the scenes or whose decision that was. There were multiple reports that Ryan Poles wanted to fire Eberflus last year, and it was Kevin Warren and George McCaskey that didn't want to. The bottom line is we simply do not know the truth. So unless you have a camera at Hallis Hall, you're pretty much just speculating, and I don't try to do that. So I can't blame him for that when we don't know whose decision it was. Also, we have to remember that Eberflus interviewed with the McCaskies and Bill Polian before Ryan Poles did. So that means Eberflus was interviewed before Poles. So again, unless you were a fly on the wall, you're just speculating. I like to stick to facts and not comment too much on rumors that we can't confirm. We have no idea if Ryan Poles wanted to hire Eberflus. We also just don't know whose idea it was to keep Flus one more season. But it is Ryan Poles' job to hire a head coach. And yes, Eberflus does go down as another huge miss. I wish we knew more about the process, but the bottom line is the Vikings hired Kevin O'Connell that same offseason. O'Connell's becoming one of the better coaches in the NFL, while Eberflus is spending Christmas with his family. So yes, that is a huge miss, but my video focused more on the 53-man roster and the moves that Poles has made. Missing on Matt Eberflus does matter. I just wish we knew how much of that was Ryan Poles' decision, because the bottom line is the fact remains that Bill Polian was the guy leading that search. He was a consultant that was running the show, and he is from Indianapolis. And then we hired a defensive coordinator from the Colts. To me, that was not all Ryan Poles' decision. But this next coach, he better get it right, or my opinion of him will change. When it comes to firing Eberflus last season, though, I do think people are overreacting here a bit. Look, Eberflus did not have a fair shot his first 2 years, and one of the biggest reasons why this franchise has not had success is due to a lack of continuity. If we fire head coaches every 2 to 3 years, this rebuild will never get finished. So Ryan Poles has to nail this coaching hire, and this is a much more attractive job now that we have Caleb Williams. But I do want to quickly remind people of all the good Poles has done before I address other responses. First, let's remember why I'm positive about Ryan Poles and the future of this franchise. The most important thing to me is our draft capital and how we build through the NFL draft. We had 2 top 10 picks this year that will continue developing, and we had a top 10 pick last season. We've never even had 2 top 10 picks in my entire life. And then on top of that, we have 3 more picks in the top 45 next year and potentially another top 10 pick to continue building this roster. and it's an extremely talented draft class. But then you have to look at our cap space and the contracts polls as written. He continues to protect this franchise's future. Even the bad contract he wrote, Nate Davis, he was able to get out of that. And then his extensions of Jalen Johnson, Cole Kmet, and Montez Sweat, they've all been great contracts that provide value to the franchise, and he's not writing awful contracts in free agency. But then we have the moves he's made and the young talent on this roster, and you can see that we are positioned to continue getting better and better in the future. And that's what's important as a franchise. But now I want to talk about the one that people continue to bring up. They say Ryan Poles has drafted 0 Pro Bowlers. And look, I'm going to say this clearly. Anyone who does not believe that Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, Darnell Wright, Jervon Dexter, Kyler Gordon, or Jaquan Brisker have Pro Bowl potential simply should not talk football. And I don't really want to waste a single second of my time arguing with those people. So please save the Ryan Poles has not drafted a Pro Bowler yet conversation for someone else. If we were winning games, we would have Pro Bowlers. It's simply a popularity contest. And to the people in the comments bringing up Jordan Howard and Mitch Trubisky, do you really believe they are Pro Bowl players? Yes, they made a Pro Bowl, but they're both backups in the NFL just a couple of years later. That is not how you build sustained success. The bottom line is this is a results driven league, and we've lost a ton of close games over the last year, not due to players on the roster, but due to awful coaching. And all of us know that. Every single person that watched those games has seen that. But for some reason, they fail to bring it into context when discussing this team's future. If we won more games, we would have Pro Bowlers on this roster. We have that talent. Imagine if we had a great head coach with this same roster. There's no way that anyone out there really believes that this team would be just as bad with a great head coach. There's no way you can actually sit there and say that you believe if we had Andy Reid or Matt LaFleur or Kevin O'Connell, that we'd still be losing games like this. Shoot, we were almost winning games against good teams with Matt Eberflus doing everything possible to lose those games. Yes, right now the morale in the locker room has fallen off, and things look like they've hit rock bottom. But let's not forget how talented some of these players are. If we can get the right coach that can get the most out of these players, things will turn around really quickly. We do still need more talent, but Ryan Poles has put us in a position to do that. We have the cap space, we have the draft picks, and we have young players who will get better. Now we just have to find a new head coach, and we have to get that one right. For the fans that are hating and talking about how this team sucks and talking crap about me as well, keep this same energy next year when this team finally turns things around. And let's remember, everyone in the media for some reason was picking us as a playoff team this season. I never did that. The media will do that again next year. After Poles has another good off season, they'll be right back on the bandwagon. But people who actually listen to what I say know that rookie quarterbacks struggle. I literally talked about it all off season long. I made literally 20 plus videos on the subject. But here we are. We struggled with our rookie quarterback, and now everyone is completely changing their opinion on our GM and doing 180s as fans. It's ridiculous. So let me get this straight. Just because the media and some of you fans put unreal expectations on this team, that means you get to now change your opinion on what kind of job Ryan Poles has done. That is pathetic and not even worth arguing. Rookie quarterbacks struggle in the NFL, especially when they have bad coaching, bad offensive line play, and injuries all over the roster. We've had all of that, and we've not had referees really help us out either. And on top of that, it still took Matt Eberflus to blow a couple of these games. This team is not as bad as our record makes it look. And next year, Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze won't be rookies anymore. So when we start winning games and turn this thing around, don't suddenly try to hop back on the bandwagon and all of a sudden become a big Ryan Poles fan. Keep that same energy. Thanks to everyone who watches. Please remember to hit that like button for me. Stay tuned, And until next time, bear down.